The initial verse, though we urgently impart the great teachings and expound one vehicle, those limited capabilities cannot easily believe. So they talk about belief, that means they have no faith in that. So if they do not have great capabilities, do not in opportunity teach the great vehicle dharma, meaning in other words, teaching must come to an appropriate time and capability. Forgive and have compassion for the ignorant who have not yet made great vows. So sometimes this is a situation when those who are very hard to understand or ignorant, they don't want to understand, there's no point forcing upon them. So we need to have mercy and compassion. So for fear of injuring the young and the mature roots of goodness, they do not force them to come here. I'm not sure whether you'll come across situation where others in their own enthusiasm trying to encourage others to believe in certain faith. And I'm sure you have come across a number of faith do that. So if you do that, in fact, instead of getting them to come, they're actually pushing them away. So you got to be very mindful of that. So if we listen to sutras and dig into teachings, we cannot let things remain at a superficial level. We must delve deeply into them in order to understand. So as we understand, and I think I explained to you the 4 stages of driving into the understanding of the teachings. One is knowing and then understanding. Understanding is that you're able to have an analytical mind to actually delve further into it, but that's still at the intellectual capacity. And then you got to grow beyond the mind level. Then you gradually grow in a higher level consciousness to realize and to get into practice. Those who have very little limited capabilities find it hard to believe that everyone can attain Buddhahood, and it's the case of these 4 great disciples. And so it would be better that for skillfully use the small vehicle teachings to help people believe in the law of karma. And it's the fundamental practice that one to believe and understand the law of karma. Because if one doesn't, and as those who believe in abundant theory, and at the end of life, everything will just go to heaven, and that's the end of the matter. So, and therefore, those especially in that situation doesn't believe in law of karma, whatever they have done, they have no consequences. So there's got to be mindful of such deviant belief. So transforming sentient being is a very great undertaking. So when it comes to people with great limited capabilities, it's best to guide them forward step by step. And this is exactly what Buddha did. So in a very much the same way as we talk to our brothers and sisters or whoever is interested in a path, we limit to what they can understand. And therefore, even before sharing the teachings, we need to understand the minds of others. Personally, that's what I do. I engage in a very simple conversation, and I find that if it's limited, I won't delve very much further into it. But sometimes people find it very boring because they keep repeating, but it's necessary. It's necessary because then only the understanding can sink in. Those with a great capabilities do not talk to them about very profound or overwhelmingly great teachings. So the Buddha knew that sentient beings have limited capabilities, so he temporarily slowed down the teachings of the Dharma. If had forced the Dharma upon, they would get scared. And this is the point that I was trying to say earlier. We actually push them away because they will find it, instead of being attracting, they will find it attractive because they don't believe in it. So the lessons learned, those with limited resolve and those without resolve would not want to form great aspirations. So limited resolve, and this, and some. I think this especially so for us as householders. When people think that, oh, because I'm a householder, that means I'm going to give up. I'm going to give up everything, or I need to give up all, donate all my worldly possession, and there's not quite that. And so therefore they find it a little bit apprehensive. Or those without resolve, and these are people that's limited resolve. They are interested, but they're not willing to give up. Those without resolve will be totally those people who doesn't want to get engaged into it. So how do you then want them to form aspiration? So this aspiration can only come later when they have greater understanding of what the path is about. So with skillful means, it gave the Dharma water of the Four Noble Truths and the 12 links of cyclic existence. And this the Dharma water is sprinkled upon the poor son. And slowly, it slowly guided ordinary people into the small vehicle, and these were two doors that Master mentioned, right? So refrain from all evil, which is the door of admonishment, and practice all that is good, which is the door of exaltation. And these are two things. So what does it do? Refrain from all evil is number one. And Master explained this before when you undertake the precepts. This is to avoid rebirth in the lower realms. Practice all that is good, especially the 10 good deeds. Then the rebirth, as Master said, will be in the heavenly realm. So to wake up, first subdue the delusions of the 10 afflictions, and then gradually escape the 8 sufferings. So this is the avoid rebirth in the lower realm. So the 10 afflictions are obviously the 5 chronic and the 5 acute afflictions, which you all know about it already, so I won't run through that. So then also what are these 8 sufferings that Master mentioned about? So again, these are the ones that from the early teachings which you already know about it, and so they're all in this slide here, which I won't run through. So in contemplation, there are some who find difficulty in learning, not because of the limited mental capability, but the mental afflictions. In fact, you find the more intelligent a person is, the more difficult to get them engaged into a spiritual path, because and people who have done very well in life are extremely difficult, because I've done well in life. That means what I'm doing is right because I made it in this worldly life. So why do I need to engage in a spiritual practice? And this is about these mental afflictions, because they are very attached to the ways of the world, which are the worldly ways. That's why in the practice, we're talking about world transcending goodness. And we got to transcend the worldly ways. So transcending the worldly ways, and to do that, one must be able to grow in the level of consciousness beyond the mundane consciousness. So the conduct may be unsavory, rude, and unkind. And because, and you look at it this way, a lot of people who succeeded in life, they are aggressive. So, and they've done well in their own conduct of doing things. So therefore, because of the aggressiveness, they tend to guard themselves, or them, especially guard the business empire. So they will have this kind of people that you tend to face. I mean, for me, I've been engaged in a professional practice for many, many years. I have met a lot of successful people, and not all of them, but a great majority of them have rather aggressive traits in their conduct. So if they have an interest in learning, try to guide them with your patience and perseverance. More importantly, by your exemplary character. So we have to be very patient and perseverant with them if they only if they have any interest in learning. But the moment they know that on spirituality, they'll walk away. So we can't force them, and this is like but the poor son, right? You cannot force upon them. More importantly, by your exemplary character, and this is important because they may be unsavory, rude, and unkind, but you continue to uphold that. So that's the reason why I say, if people insult you, learn to be insulted and uphold that exemplary character. It's only then they will then realize that you have this unshakable goodness in you. So exemplary inspiration can be awakening power practicing what you preach, because you got to show by your own behavior and your character. And I think, for example, kindness. People would want to be kind, but then they only want to be kind only under certain condition. But that's not universal kindness that one practices. So we got to be mindful in our ways. So one who has not crossed over the fence will always have doubt. I mean, this is what life is about, right? Because you have crossed over the fence, you have crossed over the spiritual fence, therefore your doubts are clear. But those people haven't seen what is on the other side. So they will always have doubts. So be the one who has crossed over the fence to relate, so that you have crossed over, you could explain and relate what you have experienced. And this is done through your exemplary life that you live. And obviously your speech and your own deeds. So on relationship, this was stating a relationship. You must remain courageous and strong in the midst of the billows of whirly winds and turbulent grounds. And we all have to face this every time the billows of this strong gust of wind crosses, and you've got to be very deep rooted. So we must be courageous and strong in facing whatever that come to us, the insults, whatever unsavory behavior that other people may throw at us. So that will shake your relationship and ruffle the turbidities of the ordinary minds, which they will find distracting and disturbing. And these are people, that sometimes you've got to go through very tough times for people to be awakened. So we need to understand what they're going through, and because they got a very disturbed mind. So as a practitioner of the Bodhisattva path, you're in a training ground of deliverance with virtues and wisdom. And this is what we need to understand. And more importantly is that we do not hold the boundaries and divisions within us if we want to go and walk amongst the masses. And then otherwise, we become very discriminatory. Okay. And brothers and sisters, thank you.
Yeah, Kanan so much, Brother Chin, for the wonderful and very steady sharing. Yes.